You're good.
So, welcome back to another really big violin class. It is week 7. It's hard to keep track. What is time anyway, right? Um, Class today is exciting yet again because it's pulling together things that I just never thought would happen. So, our guest teacher today, I have never met in real life. We have only met on Zoom, and he was recommended to me by a guest from a few weeks ago, Helena Wood, who you probably remember, who said, I think you should have Igor do a class. And so we started talking, and then I started listening to him play, and I thought, absolutely, we should have this guy. And now I feel like I know you because I've spent so much time listening to your beautiful playing with the BBC Symphony. And I really loved the interview you did the other day when you started the opening of Scheherazade. Everything about that first note that you played is
That's about as far as you got. You stopped right away.
no, no,
That's
no. But
no.
it truly brought everything to life for me in that first note, which is what you hope to have happen in such an incredible solo as that. When I first talked to Igor about the subject for today, he suggested we might enjoy an evening or a few hours of concertmaster solos, but I actually found that kind of hard to come up with. So I inserted my own idea of the things that are almost probably the most asked for items on the orchestral rep um, audition list: Mozart Concerti and Don Juan. So that's what we have today. We have the first movements of the 3 big Mozart concertos and the first page of Don Juan. So our very brave participants are putting themselves out there with this wonderful stuff. I'm incredibly excited because you never get to hear, at least I don't usually get to hear these 3 Mozart concerti back to back like this. I'm sure if you're sitting on a panel for an orchestra audition, you hear them that way,
Yeah.
but it's not something that's part of my life usually. So I'm very, very excited. Um, you can read about Igor online. There's tons of stuff to listen to, and I recommend you do that. But I think it would be better to listen to these wonderful people play than to hear me talk. So, our first violinist today is Anna. She is a student at RNCM. She studies with Sebastian Mueller. She's going to play the first movement of the G major concerto with cadenza, and we'll share her video now.
Well done. Well done, Anna. Are we all back? Good, good. It's funny. It's always funny watching yourself play, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
find you notice certain things that you instantly see, and it's happened to me so many times, and that's why it's so good to record ourselves and watch ourselves play. Very good playing overall. Let me ask you this before we kind of dive into this. When you play Mozart, what is the sort of the overwhelming factor for you? What is the one thing that you say, all right, if I miss this or this or this, but this has got to be right. This is what I'm really aiming for. This is the meat and potatoes of why we always have to play Mozart in auditions.
I'd say that maybe not in terms of doing for auditions, but for playing Mozart, trying to get this kind of, I try to kind of make it sound like opera in a way, trying to make this the character and style and playfulness of his music and stuff is really important. And then yeah, I think that's the main thing.
Well, yeah, I was hoping you would play character, because so much of what we do and so much of how we want to play a certain passage in Mozart, it's all centered around character. It's such transparent music. It's such transparent technique, nowhere to hide, which is again why we always ask for it, because we can hide so much in Tchaikovsky or Brahms or Sibelius even, but with Mozart, it's bare bones and it's like crystals. If it's not absolutely aligned, it's very noticeable. Okay, so let's just start right from the top. I like the energy that you've got on the first chord, the opening chord with a nice up-bow. It gives a really nice lift. But somehow it doesn't stay through even in the second measure. And in the little grace note, you do a really nice kind of bounce, so, and try to keep that even through these little elements, because as the element itself, it's all part of the same structure. This whole movement is about this lift. It's about having that buoyancy, if you will. How you release the long G, if you can have a little more of that taper at the end of every note before you start the little links to the chain, it will help you get a bit more of this bouncing action. Let's try just from the top, and we can just do the first little mini phrase, if you will. Very good, very good. So let me dive in even further, zooming in on the screen, if you will. These three little links, could you treat them a bit more like individual little links? I know right now you're going for a longer line. It seems like you want to make sure that the line doesn't stop on every note. That's absolutely correct. Except that before you do that, we have to actually file down these links so that links are absolutely crystal clear. Can we just try and do it link by link? So a little. And I want you to pay attention to how much bow you're using for every little single motion that you're playing.
Would you, when you do the semiquavers, do you think it's better to do them all separated in terms of?
Yeah, because I know you can do them like that, or the bowing in this case to me doesn't matter. What I would want to hear is three separate little entities, because I treat them like grace notes. I think of it as a bare bones structure. I think that's really what he wrote, except he ornamented it basically, right? He made it quite a bit more interesting.
Okay.
Exactly. Do lean on that lovely little arpeggiatura. And then a little tail to finish it off. Now, in between these, whatever bowing you do, make sure that you leave enough bow for the third, that it's not tucked in just to the tip, because that becomes quite apparent in the drop. Yep, just one last time. We'll. Very good, very good. So, as far as the amount of bow that you're using, do you feel like you're aware of it much more now?
Yeah, I do feel like, and I feel like I'm using too much, a bit too much of the bowl.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think most of our, maybe not most, but a lot of our inequality, sort of the inequality in our playing while playing Mozart, can be addressed simply by paying attention to the exact amount of bow that we use. Again, because there's nowhere else to hide. There's no romantic, phrasings that we can do to hide imperfections. It has to be absolutely pristine here, and then there's nothing else to worry about. So, if you can go through the whole piece, really, through the whole movement, and basically color code in your mind all these little links, then put them together. Okay, let's move on. Let's go on to the next. So you do the opening note, and then try to stay a little more in tempo, because you do a really lovely. You get up to this hill, and then it's all of a sudden, it's like you're running down the hill, but you're looking straight at your feet instead of at the look towards the end of the path. But that's not over. Let's do this. Okay. Very good, very good. Okay, so all the grace notes you've played, you play them really quickly. Yeah, is that a conscious decision?
With
so like that one, and I think there's one later down the road as well. You tend to play them really fast, yeah?
Yeah, I did kind of want to do that, yeah.
Okay, it's your choice. The reason I ask, that's a great answer. Consider the other one. The reason I ask is because phrase-wise, to me, he's finding his way, through these two measures, and all of a sudden the pattern breaks. You know? So to me, that sounds a bit more square, in a sense that it's a little less interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So if I was thinking of an opera aria, all of a sudden the syllable changes or the accent changes on that. Can we try the second phrase once more? And last thing to keep in mind. Make sure you hold those C's. Ba-da-dum, ba-da, ba-ba-ba-bum. all the way so that jump off of the cliff is very clear.
Okay.
Great. How does that feel?
Yeah, it feels nice. It feels like it joined somewhere. Yeah.
Good, good. It's already sounding a lot more sort of balanced in the rhythmic sense. And then again, as a result, things are sort of starting to line up and fall into their place. Good. Okay, so let's get to the 16ths. Our lovely 16th note passages. Do you mind playing that from? Actually, right where we stopped. Let's do a longer chunk to letter D or something.
Okay.
Very good, very good. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure if it might be a little bit of a delay on my end or not, but those eighth notes don't come off as even as I think they could be. See, they are, to me, they're the same. I don't think it's right to change the articulation there. You see, so again, I'm coming from a much more stricter, I suppose, structure in terms of the links. Now, with the 16ths, it feels as if as soon as you get to this, in your mind you're thinking, I've got to stay in tempo, I've got to stay rhythmic. Okay, piano forte, daga 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 daga. Okay, that's all fine as long as it's in the subconscious. But the trouble is when we as listeners, and again, we all know this, right? We've all gone through this, and we think the exact same things that you're thinking. So you've got to convince us that you're not thinking that. And how do we do that? Make music with that line. It's not a ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's not one of those paper airplanes you just send out and they kind of go wherever they go. It's got to be something that you weave through the bar, throughout the entire, even the one measure. I mean, it's such an interesting up and down, and then it's down, and then it's up again. It's fascinating. So you've got to convince us that you are watching this line, right? Let's do that. Let's do it right there. Let's kill two birds with one stone. That's already better. That already sounds better to me. Try to avoid going away from the B natural as soon as you get there at the beginning of the 16th passage. We instantly hear this release, this sort of I give up of this feeling. Think that when you get to that B, you're actually just starting the upwards motion of the hump, that you're not at the pinnacle yet. And in fact, if you are very meticulous and you look at just actually the line of the notes, that's not the hump, that's not the top, that's just the beginning. It goes up and then it goes down. Try to play the topography a bit more, and in many cases that helps. In some cases it might lead us astray, but it can be helpful as well. Try it one more time. The eighth notes are great though.
And start from the same place.
Yeah, let's start from the same. Why not? Why not? Another go at it. Brilliant. You see how that pushes you through? Now you've got the wind behind you in a way, and rather than you pulling. Okay, and another technical aspect. When you play, and especially in Mozart, what is your primary driver? Is the left hand driving or is the right hand driving?
Normally the left hand.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So try to switch that up a little bit. I always have said to any of my students that you can be a one-handed violinist as long as the one hand is the right hand. You can still play, right? There's not much you can do with just the left hand, although you can, but not.
True.
So a great way to practice, and I do this still. This is not something that only little kids do, but what am I doing? Play the piece, but without the left hand. Play exactly the strings, all the string crossings, all the right parts of the bow, just no left hand. And see how weird that feels at first. Try again, actually, just our favorite spot. But without the left hand. You can hold it there if you want, but just on the open strings. It's weird. It's strange, isn't it? It's strange. It's strange. Okay, so look, I'm not going to make you do this now, but practice that way, because what that does is it takes that pressure away from the left hand. It takes the sort of the responsibility of leading your bow away from the left hand. Left hand has enough to worry about. The right hand needs to lead. And in fact, the left hand you'll realize how much easier it is. All the big shifts, all the string crossings, all the left hand articulation starts to iron itself out. If these guys are just waiting to get a command, they really are. Another great way to practice these runs is, you've probably done this, is just take any rhythmic structure you can think of. Every possible combination, 1 and 3, 1 and 5, and just hammer it out. My sort of the thing that I've always alluded to is, it's like a piece of paper that's bent in a certain way, and your job is to iron it out to get it flat. You've got to bend it back and undo all the creases, and then it will lay flat. And that's something I always try to remind myself. Look, we can. I think there weren't really any major things that I wanted to address. I mean, these are kind of overall general things, which once you start down that path, I think you'll hear a lot of these little nitty-gritty things, and you'll have a better idea of how to address them. And just remember that is why we ask Mozart. It's go for purity, go for absolute just precision in as far as their bow distribution and everything. Last maybe point, the vibrato. I like your vibrato. It's not too electric, it's not too slow, it's not too wide, it's really pleasant. But make sure that it stays consistent. Don't start it too late after the note. Don't end it too soon before the end of the note. You know, I'd rather not realize that you're adding vibrato. I'd rather hear your sound and then have to analyze, oh, that's a really nice sound. Okay, so she's got a little vibrato, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of oregano, and rather than, ooh, oregano pizza, lovely, you know? So,
Yeah.
okay. Anything that you have specific questions about? Goodness, I've talked so much.
It's just a quick question about when you have fast passages or certain passages, do you have certain technique that you use to not tense your left hand?
Yes, a very important one. It's called practice slowly.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah.
No, but in all honesty, I do the different rhythms. I do a lot of that.
Okay.
The reason we tense is it's a subconscious signal from our brain because we know that something is uneven about that passage. It's a natural flight, fight or flight instinct. We get scared, we get tense up. So we have to trick our mind, undo whatever creases, folds you've got in that passage through all these various ways, and shift your attention to something else. If it's a passage in the left hand that you're having trouble with a shift or with a jump or just an awkward set of fingerings, think of where you are in the bow. Think of the pressure on the bow, how much bow you're using, all these things. Again, these guys know what they're doing. Once you've set them on the right path, but this should not be following these, because that's when we get the sort of the tripping over itself.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
And all of that while practicing slowly.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. All right. Lovely cadenza. I mean, again, we could spend hours on Mozart. We can analyze, notes connecting to other notes and all that stuff. But I think you get the idea.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Right. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Beautiful playing, Anna. Really, and amazing how quickly you just change things. You're really, really quick. You said something and you just do it. I'm afraid that my internet lagged out right at the critical moment when you gave the first instruction of what to try about linking notes. Could you just repeat that for my benefit, Igor?
What did I say?
You were talking about linking up notes at the very beginning of the movement.
Yes. I had something. I said something smart, didn't I? I look at them as little bicycle chain links, and my goal is to clean each link up individually before putting them together. Because I think of it. I think of it as in that structure with a little bit of an ornament.
Cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I hope that was
clarification.
All right.
So
great. Well done, Anna.
We'll move on to Ross, who's going to give us the D major. Ross is a postgraduate student at the Royal Northern, and he's here, I believe.
Cool.
And
Hi, Ross.
Share his video.
Lovely. Great. Great. I was waiting for the cadenza. Ah, okay. Great. Ross, you there?
Yeah, hi.
Great. Okay, cool. All right, very good. Listen, really musical playing. It's really enjoyable to listen to. My initial reaction is that you're quite tight back here. I don't know if it's me. It could be the angle of the screen. I don't know. But just by watching it, it almost seems like you're trying to find kind of loosen up your neck. Am I totally off, or am I kind of
I don't. I mean, I don't have a sore neck, so you could be. I don't know. You could be right.
okay? Just be careful about that. I'm not a chiropractor, but it's funny how you notice certain things, and it just seemed something to be careful about. Okay, I really enjoyed it. All right, where do we start? Some elements are similar to what I was saying to Anna. This is very crystallized technique. We're going to be looking at little chunks, little bits, a lot of bow distribution. To my eye, you use more bow than I think you need, which means you're exerting a lot more energy than you need to. You're going to get more tired. It's harder work than it can be. All right, let's start from the very top. Grab that fiddle and let's see how we can make it easier. Let's play just play the first couple of phrases. Okay, very good. Ross, let me ask you something. The very first note, do you view it differently than the next 2 or 3 crotchets?
Yeah, I think so. Just because it's the first big crotchet, I just feel like it needs a bit more. This is the first thing that someone plays, and I feel like it. Perhaps I play the other one shorter than I maybe should, but I definitely feel like the first one needs a bit of length.
Right. Okay. Well, let me burst your bubble for a second. You're not the first to play. The orchestra has already told the listeners everything they need to know. So no, of course you know that. But I imagine trumpet fanfares.
Okay.
I imagine the trumpet heralding the arrival of the prince. They're on top of the tower, and if they sound like they're just coming off of a hangover. But here comes the king. I don't think they're going to have their job very long. So let's try just. Grab the listener's attention with the first thing that you do. The very first note that you do. That note should instantly kind of perk everybody up in the hall and say, look at this ball of energy. Look at this exciting, bursting fireball, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Okay, sorry to stop you there. Can you don't play the first half of the bar. Can you play just the second half of the bar?
Yeah.
Excellent. 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 Try the first note exactly that way. How does that feel?
Yeah, good. Energetic.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Again, if we look at the structure, the very skeleton of what this is, it's the same note repeating over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
So the more we can make it with the skeleton is the same, but the skin might be different.
Okay.
Right? But we don't need to change the skeleton too much. The skin is already different. It's different notes, different lengths, different maybe volume levels, whatever. Yeah. Then I think that could be a lot more playful or a lot more cheeky, if you will. It doesn't need to be so correct and proper. Because that's a bit downwards on each note. I think of it as a little kid running down, kind of flipping coins at people. You know,
Yeah.
make me smile, make me enjoy this piece.
Okay.
Very good, very good. It'll help you if in the wind up to that cheekiness, you're not too broad. So the first two notes, again, remember, we play how we start. If we start like this, we have a long way to catch up to the energy we need. Get that energy, wind it up before you play. So the breath, the pickup, the impetus, right? The impetus to the note is already in the energy that you want to play.
Yeah, okay.
Very good. Excellent. Excellent first half. Excellent. Very good. Now, we generally will trip over our fingers on that. That's normal. It only means that our fourth finger is a little bit lazy. As my teacher used to say, your fourth finger is out on vacation. Okay? So, the energy isn't only in the attack of the finger. You probably know this. It's twice as much in the release of the finger.
Yeah.
Right? So don't worry actually so much about hitting the fingerboard. Think more about, popping it out of there.
Yeah.
Try it slowly, just those 16ths. That's it. That's it. That's it. Be careful when you lift the third finger. You've got long fingers, which is fabulous. So when you lift it, be careful that it doesn't go. Let me see if I can show this. Backing up. Okay. Be careful that it doesn't go back.
Okay.
Make sure that it goes up, because you're kind of sliding it off the string a little bit.
Okay.
From what I can see.
Yeah.
Pop it off the string. If anything, think upwards, like you're flicking that note off of the string.
Okay. Should I do the same bit again?
Yeah, try the same thing. Do you notice how much energy you have actually putting the finger down?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So again, if we think of the end result, the beginning of the action is going to magnify as well.
Yeah.
Right? Very good. Now we get into one of my favorite bits. There's so much variety in that bar and a half, right? Let's try it. Bottom, bottom. Okay, very good. I would say the same thing about the beginning of that. So, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, bum, ba-bum. The conductor is going to look at you and say, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's not a good look." So, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, bum. Pick it up off of the orchestra, bum, ba-bum. Weave your line in and out.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean be a metronome, but the energy of the beginning of that phrase should be the same as as what you want the rest of it to be. Yeah. Try one more time. Very good, very good. And now even the return of that, the 16ths are much flightier now. Do you notice it?
Yeah.
Again, it's the idea of, rather than pulling this piece along with us, you've got to be in front of it, and the wind has got to be pushing you, and then everything becomes lighter and easier. Only one little thing. I know you want to emphasize that A. It's beautiful and all. Start it earlier in your mind, but don't play it longer once you've started it.
Yeah.
Right? Merge into that traffic rather than get into the car in the middle of the road.
Okay, yeah.
All right, try it one last time. Very good. Very good. Very good. Well, I'm trying to find any other specific instances that that were kind of jumping out. Let's go on. Let's go on. We'll work with what we have now. Good. 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 Very, very good. Two little. That's all right. It's okay. It's all right. Two little things. When we play these types of passages, we have to be very careful that we play the rest.
Okay.
What do I mean by that? It's very tempting to think, I've got to stop. I've got to stop playing so that I'm not holding that note over.
Yeah.
Correct. But as soon as we think about stopping playing, we stop. We stop. I mean, we're not literally, but we're done. We've stopped. And this is just kind of, trailing along until it stops on its own.
Yeah.
We have to play through the rest. Yes, the fingers have to stop. The bow doesn't necessarily have to stop. The bow can still move without any sound. Because the millisecond of energy that it takes to stop the bow means that there's a millisecond of you thinking about it before, and then there's going to be a millisecond of you restarting that motion again. So you prepare to stop, you stop, and then you prepare to start, and then you start. That's a 4-step process.
Oh God, that's
rather than
you're right.
Right, exactly. That's way too much to think about. So exactly, but that's my point. That's what ends up happening. And so instead of just going down, up,
yeah.
Do you hear a rest?
Yeah, it is there.
Yeah. But I'm not going, stop, go, stop, go, right? So don't think about it, but mainly don't stop the bow.
Okay.
Try slowly in that. Good. The last one was the best.
Okay.
The last one, because it takes time. The reason I hear you stopping it is because the penultimate note becomes the note where you think, I've arrived. And then the rest is all just kind of garbled up. It's there, but it's not da 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 da. Yeah. Lead through. Try one more time. Lead through the rest.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, there you go. One more time. Very good. Now make sure that you save enough bow for the string crossing.
Yeah.
Yep, one last time. Good. Try that a few times at home later on when you're practicing. Make sure that on the down bow you hear the last note still.
Yeah, it was tailing off. Yeah.
Yeah, it tapers off a bit too much. Now the opening of this phrase that we started.
Yeah.
Can you try that Can you try that once more? Good. Good, good. Down or up, it really doesn't matter. As long as, if that's what you want. Do you want those two notes to sound the same, the A and the C sharp? Or do you think...
I think I want them to sound as striking as each other, but not exactly the same. I feel like the A is the springboard into this dotted rhythm and the semiquavers. It's like a jump, then a jump, but I don't want a huge gap. We're not like, oh, I'm not explaining myself very well, but I don't want them to be the same.
You're perfectly clear. You're perfectly clear. And that's perfectly fine. Give yourself a bit more horizontal motion to get that jump. Because I feel, right now, I feel like you start that note while already crouched down.
Okay.
I would prefer to see you go boom, to see the full motion of, scrunching and then jumping, rather than da.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Try a long, basically in English, try a longer bow on the up bow.
Okay.
Okay, so the opening is brilliant, perfect, lovely energy spring on that A. Now, can you do that? Good. Now, can you do it? Remember what we just did without. Do it without the left hand, just with the bow.
Yeah, sorry.
Fine. Yeah. I'm more thinking about just the eights, just the off string. Yeah. Once more. Okay. What do you notice?
I know the open strings.
Right. What about? Okay. Good. This is excellent. I love this because you've totally nailed the point on the head. You're still thinking about the left hand. You're still thinking about the notes.
Right. Okay.
Right. This is exactly the point of this exercise. Forget it doesn't matter. They could be Q's, Z's, and X and Y's and Z and P's. Listen to the sound. Listen to the sound and watch what your bow's doing. All right. So what's different?
I think there I'm making it very even.
Yes.
The quavers, and then I'm settling into where I know a slur is coming.
Yeah. Exactly. Because now you're thinking about the bow.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I see.
Now do that one more time. Good. And now add the fingers. Different?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, thank you very much. All right, but it's silly how the tiniest little shift in our mindset, how much effect that can have.
Yeah, you're right.
So, and it's just, we get so bogged down trying to be perfect in our notes that we oftentimes forget what's actually making those notes audible.
Okay.
And it's so important to think about the bow, especially in these things. After this little wibble wobble, all we have to think is it's 4 strokes that are equal. That's not hard, okay? And then a long stroke with 3 notes. Easy peasy, done. Cool?
Yeah.
All right, well, there you go.
Thank you
Brilliant.
very much.
Ross, wonderful. I love your musicality. Keep that as your sort of, check back onto it every now and then. Make sure that you're still doing musically what you want to do.
Yeah.
But just approach it from a bit more of a skeletonian way.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
That's really terrific. It's so funny because Russ is my student, and I know very well that he practices open strings when he works on his string crossings. He's very analytical about that kind of thing. But in more melodic music, it's just a different thing altogether, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even something as simple as an arpeggio, remembering that it's just 4 strokes, the same.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. People say violin, or it must be so difficult. Yes, it is. But then they think, well, it's only four strings. How hard can it be?
4 strings, 4 fingers. That's all.
Who was it that said playing the violin is very easy? You just have to play the right note at the right time in the right place. Yeah,
There you go.
the right way.
So it's 8 o'clock, and for those of us in the UK, it's the time that we usually clap for the NHS. So if anyone
Yes.
listening wants to do that, stand out on your stoop, hoot and holler. There was just it's sunny still where I am, and there were fireworks just lit. I
Yeah.
don't know what the point
Yeah.
of that is, but anyway.
Every week it's been kind of tripping my mind.
Yeah.
We've got a 2.5-year-old, and trying to get her to go to bed around this time has been harder and harder, because it's you could lay out and get a suntan right now still.
Give it another
It's
minute.
beautiful.
So now we have Georgie, who is a professional violinist. She's a freelancer in London. I met her actually, I think we weren't deskies, but we were very close to each other on a tour recently. And she decided she wanted a project and put herself forward for this class. So she's going
Good.
to play the first movement of
Good
the
on
A
her.
major for us.
Hi, Georgie. Hi. You're still muted, but we'll listen. We'll talk after the video.
Yeah, we'll have the video.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Very well. Very well. Great energy. You play it like you really play it like a seasoned pro. Like it feels like you've done this piece quite a few times. Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
I've actually just come back to it after about 2 years, so a bit of a fresh look at it this time.
Yeah. Does it feel different every time you come back?
Yeah. I change everything.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I love it. That's one of the reasons I love coming back to these pieces. It's it's kind of like going on a cleanse in a way, and then it just kind of reminds you about all these basic details that we always we're always thinking about when we're playing, or we want to, but we don't have enough time to do it when we're working. Good, Georgie. My question is, do you feel absolutely comfortable with all the characters that you're showing, all the different changes, all the variety that you're showing musically? Or do you feel like you're still searching?
I definitely feel like I know what kind of direction I'm trying to go in, but that I'm not managing to get it across yet.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because I like so much of what you do, but I find myself being a little bit surprised, sort of in the middle of a phrase or in the middle of a measure, in the middle of a passage, and if it's conscious, if it's on purpose, that's one thing. It's just all a question of style and taste. But I think I tend to like the beginning of the phrase more than I tend to like the end of the phrase.
Okay.
I like the way you started, and then you tend to kind of go off on a tangent about it, almost like you're searching for something to do with it.
Okay.
And I don't think you need to search for it. I think you've got it. I think you started, and it can just be there. It can just stay that simple in a way,
Okay.
Do you mind? Let's just try.
Yeah.
Let's try we'll leave the opening for now, because that's a whole separate issue.
Sure.
Not issue, but a separate conversation. Let's go from the Allegro.
Okay.
Good. So, two small things. If you dissect it a bit, the first three steps, right? In the adagio, it all goes to the E, right? The first da-dum, pa-da-da-da-da-da-dum. In the Allegro, it kind of does the same thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But your E is the weakest point of the three notes.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like you start with such great energy, and it's like, again, like my teacher used to say, it's a champagne bottle, the cork's flying off, the party begins, it's great. And then all of a sudden it's a wilted leaf on a plate instead of what yeah, that's not on purpose, I'm sure. So, 3 bottles of champagne, not 2 champagnes and 1 Prosecco.
Oh no, okay.
Excellent. Really good, really good. Now, it doesn't have to be so aggressive on the E, of course, but if you keep it the same way that you kept the first note, really, or in reality, just let it be a reaction of the previous bow. So you get to that frog, and you accelerate over the A, and just let it be natural, a natural down bow. Can we try just those 2 bars?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're trying too much. I think you're trying to do too much to it.
Okay.
Arrive to it just as you would arrive, without adding anything else. Could it be a little bit longer? Can you do, pretend you have another measure. Basically like that. Okay, now if I can get specific and strict,
Yeah.
that note has a little dash on it,
Yeah.
right? Or is that just in my part?
Oh, no, I don't have a dash on the first E.
Okay.
Okay.
Right? Like the dancing and the style, bowing or curtsy on the down on the first beat. Make it a bit longer,
Okay.
please. Good. Very good. And now the second phrase, I find myself being surprised that you want to play it in a very different way. Because to me, it's like a conversation between two people, maybe. This is one person. And then you have this connection. And then you're back to the first person. The harmony really does everything you need.
Yeah.
Right? So. And that, I think, maybe I think of it too simplistically, but I think that's all you need. And the character can stay the same.
Sure. I think I was trying to just put a little smile on the top, but I'm doing too much. I'm trying to do something and it's not working. So yeah, I agree.
I think you're trying to do too much. You're right. Yep. Try it without trying it.
Okay.
That's closer in my mind. I would only add a little, again, just a little sparkle. So the bubbles are still popping in the glass. Yeah. And Georgie, just for my taste, it's a little too rough on that ear. Try the same speed of the bow. Last time, I promise, we can go on. Try the same speed as you do on the first note. And you do on the third. So 1, 3, 5. Sort of 3 equal strokes. Very good. I like the gradual, step by step that you do over that second half of the that whole really nice. It feels a bit too energetic on the 16ths. I think you could get away with a lot less bow and a lot more compactness on the stroke. And I would love, you get such a beautiful electricity on certain notes. Usually on the first note of the two. But there's not enough on the second. You kind of you don't continue it through. I would love to hear I mean, it's precious, you know, kind of that saccharine feeling a little bit
Okay.
on each of these little duplets, because in tempo it won't be so precious, it won't be so over the top, but if one was to just zoom in on those two notes, they would see they're filled with gold.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's go from the That's lovely. That's really lovely. Can you add that same character to all the 16ths as well? Do you mind doing it a little slow? Just kind of studiously once. Good. Good. You see on the arpeggio, I lose quality of the sound. I hear, you know? Okay, that's good, but that's a little bit on the other extreme. So use the same amount of bow as you would if you're playing in tempo. That kind of feeling. Every note is a nugget of gold. Very good. Very good. Now, the same thing, just with half as much bow on each note. Same tempo, same everything. Good. Now, same thing. Now, in the after the 16th, also half bow. Don't use the whole bow. So do everything basically here.
Okay.
Exactly the same way. Good, good. Now, Georgie, that is brilliant. That is perfect. You're still subconsciously trying to add things to it.
Okay.
You're not trusting yourself because there's a lot of this.
Right.
All natural, all completely what we all do. It's so easy to sit on this side and observe it than to actually notice it when we're doing it.
Okay.
Be aware of it. Try to do without it, and just play. I'm pointing to the screen. Just play right there. Just play right here. Just play right here.
Okay.
Don't play anywhere else for this moment. Good. Good. Are you for the long note? Do you feel like you're ending up in the right part of the bow, or too high in the bow? It feels too high in the bow here because then you're kind of tucked into the corner. You want to start them a little closer, yeah?
Okay.
One last time, and I'll take the brakes off.
Okay.
Good, good. The rest is easy. The rest is easy. Does it feel different?
Yeah. Yeah. More concentrated in
Good.
the contact.
Good, good. That's the goal. That's the goal. So try in tempo once, but feeling as if you're playing it exactly how you just played. So try to do it exactly the same way, but in tempo. Well, that's exciting. That's got so much energy, effortless energy.
Okay.
without me feeling like I'm tired just here listening to you play. You know, I'm not feeling like there's a lot of energy being exerted. I'm hearing a lot of energy. Do you know
Sure.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's that's the formula for me. That's basically, maybe I'm repeating myself over and over, but that's kind of the formula with Mozart to me. Because once that's set, then it's so easy. All we have to do is take a little drop of red color here, a little bit of orange, a little bit of blue here, and in Mozart, it explodes.
Mhm.
We really don't need to do much more. But it's funny because I keep thinking about this. And, we've all played these concertos when we were kids, right? It's like one of the first kind of bigger concertos that we do, and it felt so easy back then. Like, well, Mozart's easy. There's no double stops, hardly anything, no big jumps. It's simple because we thought simpler. We
Yeah.
didn't confuse ourselves with, oh, I've got to do something with it.
Sure.
I must create something. No, no, you must not. You must play it as a kid. We have to approach it as naive, sort of, okay, I just play it like this and like that, and it all falls into place. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not as simple, of course, but lovely, lovely. Listen, a couple of small, tiny little things that I wrote down. Uh, in the 3 minutes. Okay, the opening, the lovely opening. I think you can be a lot more. There are probably kids watching this. A lot more seductive in the opening
Okay.
of this piece, in a Mozart opera kind of way. If you can imagine the tenor, or starts out from backstage, off stage, stage left, first note, a few steps onto the stage, turns his head to the audience, and from there, just let the butter pour. Yep. Can we try just the opening? Very good. Very good. So, when the first time I played this for my teacher, we spent about 3 weeks on those 3 notes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury here. So, it sounds like you're a little bit shy of it. You're kind of waiting to hear what's going to happen with the note. You started and you prepare it, and it kind of comes into focus towards the end of the note.
Okay.
Think of it before. And again, remember, you are being pushed onto the stage rather than you pulling somebody onto the stage.
Okay.
Energy forward, not behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one sec, Georgie. You start it, you prep it, and you give up.
Okay.
You give up. Okay, so prepare and stop just a split second before actually playing, and freeze there. Okay, you've gone. So if you imagine it as a wave, you've gone over that pinnacle. So
Yeah.
you've prepared it, but nothing happened, and then
Yeah.
it plays. But
Okay.
at that moment, that note is dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So can you bring? You know what I mean? Start the note before you get to the pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
Already, no? It's as simple as the physical motion that you make.
Mm-hmm.
If you come up above and start, and then there's a second preparation.
Okay.
So almost put the bow on the string and start from kind of underneath the violin. Right. Can you try one thing? Can you actually bring the violin to the bow?
Okay.
Bring the bow up here where you would want to start, put it on the string, and then bring the violin to the bow.
Mm-hmm.
No, no. Don't bring the bow up. Actually, like hold it here. Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay, and move the violin as you breathe in. But don't exhale.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about when you breathe to play, and no one ever talks about when you breathe out. Because you breathe to play. I think this is what we're talking about now.
Exactly. Exactly.
But where do you breathe? You know, do you breathe out just before the note or just after? Or I mean, surely that's part of the breathing. But
Absolutely. Absolutely right. It depends. It
yeah,
depends. Because if you were a singer, if you start breathing out in this instance before you sing,
hmm
your note will kind of, fade in, kind of
yeah,
out of air.
hmm
But you won't have that tension. You won't have that sort of you see, I can't release the energy that I've inhaled.
yeah,
Because if you do that, you're playing on an exhale, and
okay,
you have no tension in it or energy. In this case, I hold it, and I exhale on the E.
okay, yeah.
Try it. I don't know if that would work. That's better. That's better. I think for me, my issue is still about just the, you set it up like this, and then you play here on a downwards option. I still would love to see you do where there's not a ictus to the actual note. Bring it up, hold it here for a second, and then start it from the stationary position rather
Okay,
than
yeah.
bring the bow up, hold it, freeze. Yes, exactly. Okay, but do you feel that coil, that energy coil building up? That's what
Yeah.
I'm going for.
hmm
So, you don't have to, you're not going to have time to do that. So if you go, you've destroyed that fermata.
Yeah.
You've destroyed that. All the violins are going to be holding up there, waiting for you to play, so that we can go, ah. So you have to feel that.
hmm
Bring it up, freeze it, and then play. Freeze, wait, freeze and wait, and you're. I'll get you and I'll let you go. I promise. Just bring the bow up there. Don't do an upbeat. Bring the bow up
Okay.
where you would normally start. Wait. Bring it up.
Yeah.
Wait. Wait. Put it on the string and play. Yes, that's it. Because
But
the
how do I
note
incorporate the
grows.
breath into that?
Say again.
How do I incorporate my breath into that? Just
Does your breath have to be?
no.
You've got a whole fermata to breathe. Breathe. Continue breathing in as you play the first note.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Running out of breath.
completely right. Anyway, you get the idea.
Yeah, I do.
All right, I don't want to hammer it in, but I think you brought up an absolutely brilliant point about breathing out. When do we breathe out? How do we control it so it doesn't tighten up, and then we don't tighten as players? We can, people can do an entire semester on this stuff, a
Sure.
year, lifetime. Anyway, lovely playing. I hope I get to see you around town.
Great.
And it would be great to hear you again.
Thanks very
All right,
much.
my pleasure.
Really beautiful playing, Georgie. That smiling because my class we did a warm-up class yesterday, and I was in I felt really stiff and out of it and didn't feel good about playing, and so I made them breathe with me, and we had to stop because I was worried people were going to pass out.
Yeah.
You're a very good.
It's true. We don't think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
singers, I'm married to a singer, so, naturally that's 50% of singing, if not more. And we don't tend to think about it much.
Yeah.
But it makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, and then you can start thinking about what kind of consonant you want to start with, and how much breath, and you'll never be able to play the first note again.
Yeah, exactly.
No, really beautiful playing, Georgie. Thank you for coming forward and playing that for us. It was a delight, really.
Thank you.
We are going to completely 100% switch gears and move on to an orchestral excerpt that everyone knows and loves to hate, or loves to love, Don Juan. And I was thinking actually about how in an audition one would have to go from playing what Georgie just played to playing this Strauss excerpt, and what a tricky thing that is to do, to switch gears. We have two different violinists to do it for us, so Connie's going to play Don Juan. Connie lives in Connecticut. She came to us from an audition website that she and I were both on the boards for, and she offered herself for this class. So we'll watch the video and go on.
Cool. Well done, Connie.
Thanks, you.
All right. Very well. Have you played this in auditions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played for a few summer festival auditions.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. So you know how the game goes.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Look, just one thing to keep in mind when we practice out excerpts, and this is more for people who are watching, probably less than for your sake, but when we're practicing excerpts, I really want to encourage everyone out there to think why that excerpt's on the list. Don't just look at the piece and say, okay, I've got to learn this. This is hard. This is easy, whatever. Think of why that excerpt's on the list. Why out of the entire symphony have we chosen those 40 bars? Or why is that random passage in there? So, people say, well, I've actually had these discussions with people, and people say, why do you guys always ask for Don Juan? I mean, everyone and their mother can play Don Juan at this point. Everyone knows it. Everyone learns it. And it's because on that one page, you basically can tell everything that you need to know about a player. It's just, it's scary, but it also is an excellent way for somebody to show what they can do. I always ask for this at the end of the audition. If I get to choose the excerpts and the running of it, I always ask for it at the end, because it's kind of like the calling card for everybody. You know, it's their thing, and you can either show everything you can do, or you can redeem anything you've done over the audition with that excerpt. You know, and as someone who's done auditions, you probably can relate. There are so many things in this where you feel like, oh, I'm at the top of the world. Yes, I get to do Don Juan. I can show them what I can do. That being said, you have to show them that you know every single little nuance on that page. Okay? Every accent, every 16th note rest, every slur that doesn't have a 16th note rest. And if you emphasize that, even more than you would if you're playing it in an orchestra, if you emphasize it to tell me in the panel that, hey, I know there's a 16th note rest there. I know this note has a crescendo to the end of it. All those things matter. And that's really where somebody can shine and kind of just lay down the gauntlet with this excerpt. So the big trick in this piece is to forget about the first 16th note. Forget about the 16th note rest. Okay, I know a lot of people go and they panic about this, and then it's then it's a mess. Forget it. No one plays that note as far as you're concerned. Okay, you get a downbeat from a conductor. Hopefully, you have an idea of when to play. Most of the time, and I'll tell you as a secret, we play as a downbeat. You know, I mean, maybe I'm making this up at this point, but I always think of this as, at least in an audition. Okay, so ya-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da. That's all you have to think. 7 notes. Can we try that? Nice accent from the string. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, that's better. But now it's very kind of studious and very metronomic. I want to feel it as like a horn call to the E. Good, good. Can we start from the C? Good, with a little more energy on the upper C. Right. So that's why I think of it as... Each uppo has a pretend accent. That's better. Can you start from the C once more? Good. And now use a little bit less bow and quicker string crossings. Good. Try it slowly. But completely détaché. Good. Now, what I meant about the quicker string crossings, can you start them sooner? So don't wait till the end of the note. Yeah, that's a bit late from what I can see. You have the benefit of the down bow to make the string crossing, kind of smooth it out a little bit more. Yeah, that's better. It's almost, it's really going from here to here. It's a tiny motion. So rather than stretching the strings open, can you think of them as if everything is tightly close together? So do you know what I mean? Flatten all of these out. So don't play on the very edge of this G. Bring it a little bit close to the D, and etc. Yeah. it's still, and maybe this is something I'm seeing over the screen, but what I see is I see it after the bow change. But I'd love to see the string crossing. Can you try to clip the next note while playing the down bow? Yeah. That's it. Exactly like that. Exactly like that. Practice that way, and then get it later and later and later on the down bow until you're ready to change the bow just the instant before you get to it. Or in fact, the instant you get to the string. Anyway, that's as far as string crossings. Then yatatatam. That triplet has got to be like it has to be the result of all the energy you've grabbed or gained on that up bow E. Or the up bow. We're getting ahead of ourselves there. This is okay. Let's do the long E. Good. Be careful that you don't lose the energy on the beginning of the E, but rather you gain it. Lead into the F sharp. And then a much quicker. That's it. Yeah, obviously a much quicker down on the F sharp. Yatatatam. Right. Okay. Let's put this opening together now. Good. So as soon as you get the E, this is one of those where the gears change before you have a chance to play. 3 times slower bow speed on the E, because if you get to the frog, you're kind of in trouble. Instant sort of handbrake, but energy is building. Sorry. That's better. But you have to think of it before you get to the E, right? It's like you don't notice the wall after you've crashed into it. Have your foot on the pedal before you get there. That's better. Try it slowly once, but the same amount of bow and same part of the bow as you would normally play. Good. So you notice the energy you get halfway through the E. About here. Can you bring that energy up towards the very beginning of the note? So the pinch is instant. That's right. The E is not a result of the triplets. The E, think of it as a start of something new. One last time. Very good. Now in a little bit quicker. Good. Now. You have time. Yeah! Uh-oh. Yeah. Good. But from the string. And with again, this is the energy of. All right. Okay. This is the energy of a young man at the peak of his youthfulness. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Good. A little bit more crescendo. So we're already kind of blaring away at the start of this, right? We're already playing fortissimo. We see the crescendo. Drop back a little bit after the initial pinch, just so that you can show, yes, there's a crescendo. I'm aware of it. I'm doing it. Of course, I will. Just so you have room to go there. Good, Connie. Can I ask you for this? Could you connect that a little bit more? Not legato, but without stopping the bow. Do that tam pa pam, but without an actual stop in the bow. That's better. I hear that, and that's the trouble, because I hear an ending to the E. I would rather hear pa pa ba pa pa ba. Okay. Right now the E has this shape, so it starts loud and it ends quiet. Can you turn it around so the E starts and it grows through the F sharp and it grows through the G sharp into the B.
Okay.
Try it slowly. We come back to our favorite hand, the bow hand, and it's about bow speed. If we start so fast, then we have no choice. Feel as if you're accelerating through the E. Right. That's the idea. Of course, this is all magnified, so you can kind of easily do it now in this tempo. In the actual tempo, the idea should still be there. Pom ba bum, pom ba bum. It's on one line. All right, let's jump ahead a little bit. You did this really nicely. Show that a little more. The difference, long, short. Right? I mean, we're so specific about all these little silly things, but that's the name of the game. Let's go from the triplets. Da, 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 da. But again, I think you could show that difference a bit more. The crotchet versus the eighth. Really good. Yes. Yeah. That tells me you're aware of it. You don't worry about overdoing it because you're trying to send a message. You see? And there's not many things you can overdo in this excerpt. It's down one. It's the name of the game. All right, let's go on. Good. Okay, Connie, if you look very closely at the part, you will notice that there's a slur between the first two notes. Right? In this instance, in Strauss, I would interpret this as meaning the second note isn't a note with a dot.
Okay.
Because the slur is over the note. It's not just a connection between the notes, it's also what the next note means. And again, as far as the speed of the bow, always growing on the long note, never going. And then overdo that shift. I think I can count on one hand in 20 years how many times I've heard people play that note flat. I wouldn't be able to count how many times I've heard it sharp. right? It's natural. So think lower on the F natural. Okay, G sharp. Rum, ba, ba. Good, very good. And it's just same thing here. Just connecting those two. Then relax, relax. There's nothing there. No one needs to hear that. Only until the last bar. That's where you really come back into view again. Okay, let's this is fine. Let's skip over to going on there. Good, good, good. In this little passage, what I would listen to is, do you show a difference in the notes in the up bow? Long, long. Okay, that small little detail. And also, what do you do with that note? Is it just, oh, I've arrived. Oh, I've arrived. Oh, I've arrived. Oh, I've arrived. Or is it, oh, I've arrived, but there's more. Oh, I've arrived, but yet there's more. Yeah. So do something with that note as well. Sustain it, in other words. Careful. Very good. Very good. See, now it becomes a phrase. And it's much less down, up, down, up, down, up. It's much more about... Two bars, two bars. I'm going. I see it. I've arrived. Yeah, one more time. Good, good, good. I'm going. Good. Good. Connie, I think the same applies after this. This should be a little bit of a different feel. This. A little bit more of that. Bum, bum, ba, bum, 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 ba, bum, bum, and then drop down a bit more. You know, I'm sure you've been told this a million times, but just always good to remind. Bum, bum, just so you can say, look at my amazing crescendo. You want me in the ear section. I can do an amazing crescendo from fortissimo to triple forte. Right? All these little elements. Let's go from the triplets. If I may suggest, for sake of brightness, loudness, and ease, to start on the A string in first position.
Okay.
And just think of it more on the string. More détaché, more less classical. And that's really nice. That's really nice and very thoughtful to go on the G string. But in orchestra, it would get lost.
Okay.
In tempo, that idea of that timbre. It's not enough notes on the G string to make that point valid. Go for less difference in color and more kind of country rambunctiousness. Yeah, I would even do open string. Open. One on the A sharp. Two, two. And then one on the F sharp. Yeah, yeah. Just to get just as much sound and brightness and sort of the same texture in the sound rather than all four strings. Okay. All right. Now, okay. Let's jump ahead a little bit. Same idea here. 1, 1, 2, 3. Don't worry, because then it's going to be garbled in catching up. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 3, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a bit of a contentious point because everyone does this differently. Every retard, every conductor has an own idea of what they want to do with this. Try to do a little bit less in an audition, I would say. Just to present more of a sort of, look, I'm flexible. I can go either way. I can take more time. I can, don't think about it too much. I shouldn't even put it in your head, but try to keep an overall tempo in mind. So it's really just a hint that, yes, I know it slows down here, but I got other things to do. I got to move on. I got to keep going. Let's try from the G. Good. Connie, can you continue to grow on the G? To the downbeat. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 3, 4, 1. Good. Now that one, this is a little element of what's to come later on. Rather than, this is the Don Juan side, the flirt side, right? And now back in character. Aha, okay, now. When you practice it, make sure that you can show the little bit of a difference between the triplet and the 64ths, the 32nd, sorry. So it's not just, I mean, no one will ever listen to it like that. No one will ever hear it. But if you do it, more benefit to you. It basically won't sound like that. It would kind of have a staggered start to it. Okay, but then keep the tempo. 3, 4, 1. Right? The tranquilla doesn't start till the measure after. And the tranquilla is really more of a character change rather than a tempo change. Still fortissimo. I used to do it on the down bow. I don't know if you want to try that, but and up on the last note. No, all down. Yeah. Just be careful of the tempo, rhythm. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Last time. And yeah. Yeah. Be careful. You're playing the triplets almost twice slower. Rum, ba, ba, da, 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 da. If you think in 2, yum, 2, 1, 2. Good, good. Yeah. Be careful about that. It's better now. It's not quite perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, look, I will jump just to the last because this is fine. Just play through that. We won't get bogged down in them. Keep going. Two, three, four. Okay, good. Let's start with a little bit less bow here. So you have room to grow still. So that is the loudest bit of that. For the triplets, it would take too much time right now, but I would just suggest a little bit off. A little bit shorter, a little bit off, and less bow. Try it once and I'll let you go. We've gone over it already. Sorry. Good. Connie, I would just, sorry, because this will help you. Try down bow on the B. Down bow on the B. Yep. Up. That's right. Right. Yep. Yep. With 5% of the amount of the bow that you're using now.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. I'll leave it at that because these 4 passages are exactly the same. Very picky. Practice them on one little spot. Okay? Yeah. Great. Thanks for your patience. I'm sorry that it was so this note, but that's brick by brick by brick for the full page.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Brilliant.
Don't apologize for that at all, Igor. That's what we all need to hear, is how every single detail about every single note adds up, and you obviously have such life and experience with this piece. It's amazing to hear you play. I hope everyone listening is feeling as lucky as I feel right now, because just hearing you play that is like, oh, now I want to learn Don Juan. Okay, that's what it should sound like.
It's the story of my life.
That's really perfect.
No. It's just with having had to hammer these excerpts out for so long is one thing, but then when you listen to it on the other side of the curtain, your perspective changes completely.
Oh, it must.
And that's when you realize what you actually should have been practicing, and what you should be doing with this piece and all that stuff. It's an amazing transformation when you switch teams like that.
So I hope you have a few minutes to answer questions if there are any. Sometimes people are shy and they don't have any, but they might. So if people want to turn their video back on, and we'll grab the mute button so you don't have to, but raise your hands if you have any questions. Brendan does already. Great.
I'll go into gallery view. Here we go. Hi, Brendan.
Hi, thanks. I really enjoyed that. I just had a question regarding auditions. And if you were on a panelist on the panel, would you say, or to, I suppose my question mainly is, does the excerpts or your, say, concerto leave more of a mark on the panel? Like which one tends to, if there's something that makes you picked over someone else, does that tend to be something from the concerto in terms of like your musicality showing through, or would it be like your detail to what's written on the page in an excerpt?
It's tough to say, because we listen to these things for different reasons. You see, so if somebody comes in and plays a brilliant concerto, but then they start playing the excerpts, and we kind of look at each other and say, have they ever listened to this piece, or have they ever played in an orchestra? We're listening for different things. Of course, the basics of playing have to be there in the excerpts. If somebody comes in and plays Don Juan brilliantly musically, but they have technical issues, then the answer is pretty obvious. I don't think, if I'm answering your question correctly, and stop me if I'm not, but I don't think one outweighs the other in our minds. The concertos, look, this is something that this is you. This is what you do. This is where you have a chance to show your musicality, your technical prowess, everything. This is the complete picture. But then we start getting into the excerpts. Can you do this stroke? Schumann Scherzo. Why is it on? Because we want to know that when we get to that piece, or we get a page of off-string spiccato, we're not going to have somebody, with a square wheel in a section, and everyone's going to be in sync with each other. It's really, the excerpts really highlight generally one or two aspects of playing for us. And that was why I said, when we get excerpts, I think the first thing I always think about is, why is that excerpt on the list? What are they trying to shine the light onto?
Right.
Does that answer enough?
Yeah.
You're muted. Sorry.
He's saying yes. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Another question? Is that it?
Don't be shy.
I have a question.
Yeah.
My question is, for something like Don Juan, or some of the Brahms excerpts that come up, where you need to play with this sort of really sustained, huge meaty sound, high on the E string. Do you have any suggestions of how to practice for that sound? I mean, you talked a little bit about the sustain of the bow, which I think is so key. But anything else that you could suggest, maybe for the vibrato in that? Because I know something I struggle with. I'm not the only one.
If it's Brahms, if it's something like, if we're going into, we get that excerpt a lot. For me, I love putting that excerpt on the list, because I want to see somebody sustain through the long note. So often we hear, we hear maybe an uneven rhythm, or we hear the short note just kind of forgotten, and we see the big trees, but we don't see the leaves and the branches. The vibrato, to me, as I mentioned earlier, I don't necessarily want to hear the vibrato. I would rather hear the sound and then think, wow, that's a beautiful sound. How is that person getting that sound? How are they creating that sound? So it's a combination of bow speed, a little bit of vibrato. Vibrato is a spice to me. It should never be the main ingredient in playing. And because I think it was, I remember exactly. It was the concertmaster of Baltimore Symphony, Jonathan Connie, when I was playing my excerpts, and I was taking some lessons from him before I even joined the Baltimore Symphony. I remember very vividly, he told me, in that Brahms excerpt, he said, create the sound with the bow. You've got to, you can do a nice sound with it. You know, don't overpower it with a vibrato. Don't create the sound with the vibrato. Vibrate with the bow. And, you know, again, it just kind of opens that window of how much variety we can have with the bow stroke, and just how many different sounds we can create just by changing the most minute, minuscule detail in how we bow.
Awesome. Any other questions, or should we say goodbye and thank you? Thank you, Igor. That was
my pleasure.
Just really wonderful. Thank you to Georgie and Anna and Ross and Connie for playing. As you all know, I do this at the end of every class, and next week is going to be a change of pace entirely. We're going to visit with my old colleagues from the Cypress Quartet, Tom Stone and Ethan Filner, and we are going to be looking at viola for violin. We're turning to the dark side for a class. We have 4 people who have either recently switched from violin to viola or are contemplating the need for more versatility. So that'll be a little bit of a detour from our usual. If you enjoyed this and found it inspiring, please consider sending even $1 or £1 or $5 or £5 to PayPal so that I can pay our teachers. And keep practicing and listening and being excited and inspired by this great music that we get to spend our time with, whether we're on stage or not. So thank you very much, and
hats off to you for setting this up. This is
thanks.
This is an incredible endeavor to do, and as you said, you wanted to do it for a couple of weeks initially, and it's turned into this really huge thing that's got a life of its own now, which is wonderful. So.
Yeah.
Bravo to you for doing this, Cicely.
Thanks. See you next week. Bye, everybody.